Hello, welcome back to EDH on a Budget. I'm your host, Iceman. Today we're going to be going over 10 Fog cards that I got from my bulk box opening. And some of these are new cards that I've never seen and didn't know about, so I hope you guys will enjoy it. And by Fog, I mean cards that reduce either combat damage or damage in general, and they could be one-sided or it can affect all sides of the field. So first up we have Aethersworn Shieldmage. It's an artifact creature, wizard, Vedalken 2/2, has flash. When Aethersworn Shieldmage comes into play, prevent all damage that would be dealt to artifact creatures this turn. So this is obviously best in artifact decks that are blue-white, but it does prevent all damage, so not just combat damage. And this is nice because red has a lot of damage spells and damage board wipes, and if you flash this in, this will prevent all of that for all of your artifact creatures, including itself. So I personally prefer the one-sided fogs because it will save your board, and it almost acts as removal for other creatures. You know, you can line up blockers so that they take out what you want, or you can just have each artifact creature block a different creature to try to save as much of your life as possible. And for the most part, one-sided fogs usually cost about three mana to cast. So this is a great card, you should give it a shot. These next two are very similar, Hysterical Blindness and Downsize. They are not true fogs where they reduce all damage, but reducing 4 power for all of your opponent's creatures is pretty substantial. That is often enough time to make it a fog where you just don't take any damage, especially in many token decks. Most tokens don't have more than 4 power, and if they do, it's quite minimal. So these two cards can be quite good, especially if you're playing blue and you don't have a big defense, because you don't always want to use this type of card unless you're being attacked, and you can wait till the last minute with this. Hysterical Blindness and Downsize are both only cost a penny each. Next is the typical color of fogs. Respite is our first one. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn. You gain 1 life for each attacking creature. So it's not one-sided, but it is fog with upside. And being 2 mana, that's about the cost of fog with the upside. Gaining 1 life for each attacking creature. Most decks, it can be a nice little buff that might help you last an extra turn or two. With the life gain decks, this can be a pretty substantial benefit. Obviously, that'd be a lot of life if you're getting swung at with a lot of creatures. Respite only costs 15 cents, and it only prevents combat damage, so it's also not one-sided. Next is Hunter's Ambush for 2 and a green. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt by non-green creatures this turn. So clearly this is excellent in a mono green deck, because your creatures will still deal combat damage, but all the non-green creatures will not be dealing combat damage. So it creates that one-sided effect that I was talking about earlier. So your creatures can still take their creatures out, but their creatures can't take your creatures out. And it is 3 mana, just like I said for most of the one-sided fogs. So it's not bad. This is should be definitely considered if you have a strong green commander or mono green deck. Next we have Haze Frog. This one is a little expensive mana wise, 3 green, and it has flash. I do like flash. When Haze Frog enters the battlefield, prevent all combat damage that other creatures would deal this turn. So it's not really one-sided, since this creature is the only one that will deal combat damage and you're preventing everything else. Its power is only 2, so it's kind of weird that it was written like this. It's also interesting because it's a frog. Reminds me of Spore Frog, which is a much better card. I feel this has more of a surprise gotcha effect to it. It's a fog stapled to a creature, so that is something that can make the 5 mana be offset. Being stapled to a creature means that you can reanimate this, you can flicker this, you can blink it, so it enters the battlefield and you fog again and again and again, whereas Spore Frog does have to sacrifice this, so you have to reanimate it. There is no flickering it. So it's just interesting that they're both frogs. Haze Frog is 20 cents. Next we have Hindervines. Hindervines cost 2 and a green. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn by creatures with no +1/+1 counters. Hindervines cost only 1 penny. And this is what I was talking about, being a one-sided fog. It's specifically indexed to have +1/+1 counters, but those types of decks, the +1/+1 counters, every single one of their creatures oftentimes has +1/+1 counters. So this is literally one-sided fog, where your creatures will deal all the damage, and you don't even have to worry about blocking each one. You can just line up your blocks so that you take out what the creatures you want to take out. And I think that's one of the underutilized pieces of fogs. Most people use a fog to neutralize combat damage, but if you can use a one-sided fog, then your creatures start removing their creatures. It turns into kind of a pseudo green removal for creatures, and green doesn't really remove creatures the best. There are a few cards, but not like other colors like white and black. They're definitely the best for removing creatures, in my opinion. Next, we have this Staple Fog. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn for 1 green mana. It's what the effect was named after, Fog. It's only 1 mana. It's easy to leave 1 mana up, and it definitely leads to gotcha moments. Opponents think they have the game won, so they will swing out with everything they have. You fog, and then their shields are down because all their creatures are tapped, and it can still swing the game massively. It's definitely a late game card, but you can use it anytime you don't want to get hit. It's only 11 cents. Next is Druid's Deliverance. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to you this turn, and then populate. Populate means put a token onto the battlefield that's a copy of a creature you control, of a creature token you control. This costs 1 and a green, and it's only 12 cents. So this is, again, what I was talking about, the 2 mana fogs that have fog everything combat damage wise, but has upside. Populating a token, if you're not playing a token deck, it's not really worth it, because then it's just a 2 mana fog. But if you have a commander that creates a token creature, or your deck's focused on that, this can be a great way to get a creature to enter the battlefield on your opponent's turns. That can lead to a lot of upside. And if you're playing clone decks, so there's a good bit of clones that create a copy of a creature, and if that's the case, then this can be another copy, and you could be getting, just for 2 mana, copies of a big creature, a really good one that has a lot more CMC, so this could have a lot of value potential. Next is probably one of the weirdest fogs I've seen and didn't know about. This is Spore Cloud. It costs 10 cents and it's 1 green, tap all blocking creatures. No creatures deal damage in combat this turn. Neither attacking nor blocking creatures untap as normal during their controller's next untap phase. So this is so unusual because green doesn't really tap creatures. This is like a blue effect, if anything. White has some tap creature effects, but you're tapping blocking creatures. It doesn't have to be your creatures. You could use this when other people attack other people, and then the attacking creatures don't untap, and the blocking creatures get tapped and they don't untap, and it can just leave a very open board for your creatures to come through and just attack unblocked. So it's interesting because you could use it to fog and not block if you're being attacked. That way your creatures don't get tapped and the attacking creatures get tapped. There's definitely no real benefit to block if you're going to pay this. It's definitely one of the most interesting cards. If you've ever seen this card played, I would love for you to comment and talk about it, because it is just such a odd card for green. It kind of breaks the color pie with all the tapping. And it's definitely a different fog where you might want to use it on other players' turns. I mean, all fogs you could use on other players' turns if you're going to be using politics, you know, like I can save you from this, but can you do this for me? Especially since green struggles with certain aspects of the game, you might be able to get something removed that you didn't want. And that is it. Thank you for watching another episode of EDH on a Budget. Hope you enjoyed it. Please hit the like, share, and subscribe button to help the channel grow. And have a good day.